this man went out of his way to rape his sister and had the height of effrontery, the height of audacity, insurmountable height of effrontery to throw his sister out and be angry at her. What? What craziness! That's so bizarre. The God of the universe loves us beyond measure and wants to be our friend. He desires to share with each of us a unique, unbreakable bond. This is First Things First, a devotional podcast where for 365 days, first thing each morning, we are going to be getting to know God better. We're going to be seeking His daily will for our lives and seeing how best we can seek first His kingdom. In short, we'll be putting first things first. Good morning, and welcome back to another devotional. I'm your host, Melissa Sewell, and this is First Things First. Now, today is the hard launch. Today's the day that we will be doing part 2 of our topic on feelings, and today's edition is entitled Love or Lust. There's a version of love that the media glamorizes and quite often puts on a pedestal that will be discussed in today's devotional. Until I read this story in the Bible, I never cognitively registered just how diabolical, how wicked this type of love that exists in Western society is. And for some reason, we love to exalt it, and it's gotten to a point where our senses have been dulled to the reality of it. I can speak for myself. So much so that we're often told if someone doesn't feel this way about you, someone doesn't express themselves to you like this, if someone doesn't act like this, they don't love you, they don't feel strongly enough for you. And I just wanted to get this devotional out before you guys paint our Western world red and white next week. The entertainment sector has chosen to be in a chokehold by this type of love, which has bled into our society, and it has become a stronghold. On Wednesday, we laid a very good fundamental work for today's devotional. So if you haven't watched it, I would recommend going back to Wednesday's devotional and watching What of Your Feelings. It may seem unnecessary, it may seem a bit, okay, we get it, but watch it and come back immediately, and I'm sure it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. If you also have children, I would probably advise you not to play this in their hearing, depending on where we go. Let me paint a picture of the type of love I'm talking about as best as I can. This type of love, it's described as undeniable, uncontrollable love. It's felt so deeply that you'll see in the movies the person who feels this type of love, they're restless throughout the night, they can't sleep. It's a type of love that people describe consumes them. The person is always on your mind to the point that you feel sick, you feel physically sick, and you'll hear this description that's so famous now: I'm madly in love with Jill, I'm madly in love with Tom. It's a type of love that people would say drives them to do things beyond their control. So they'll see things like, I didn't mean to, but I just couldn't help myself. These people who express or say they feel love in this way are driven by a love that controls them. You see it in the movies, you hear it in the songs, you've probably experienced it or see it play out in someone's life that you know. It's felt by that man that is married and probably has 3 kids, but he just finds his new coworker that he's only known of maybe 3 months so irresistible, and he just has to get his hands on her. It's that young man you've been getting to know, and if he breaks up with you today, you may just harm yourself. It's a kind of love that you'll hear people say, if I can't have you, no one else can. That's the type of mentality behind it. It's type of love that though she is underage, though he is underage, you just can't help how you feel and you have to act on it. It's the kind of love that gets someone to say, he's beating me, he's putting his hands on me because he loves me. If he didn't love me, he wouldn't act out like this. He's shouting at me because he feels so passionately about me. This so called love diminishes a person, a human being, a child of God, to either being the object of your so called love, which is really greed. Either they're the object of what you want to express, or they're the scum of the earth to you. Let's read 2 Samuel 13. I did say if you wanted to have a jump start on today, read 2 Samuel 13, and here we are. This is a very horrific story. Now Absalom, David's son, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And after a time, Amnon, David's son, loved her. David's son what? Loved her. And Amnon was so tormented that he made himself ill because of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin and it seemed impossible for Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. So this friend was basically his cousin. And Jonadab was a very crafty man. And he said to him, O son of the king, why are you so haggard morning after morning? Why do you look so dull? Why are you looking so ill? Will you not tell me? Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to you, say to him, let my sister Tamar come and give me bread to eat, and prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to him, Amnon said to the king, please, let my sister Tamar come and make a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat from her hand. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go to your brother Amnon's house, and prepare food for him. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house where he was lying down, and she took dough and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and bread, and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and emptied it out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, send out everyone from me. So everyone went out from him, and he was left alone with his sister Tamar, his half-sister. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food into the chamber, that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes she had made and brought them into the chamber to Amnon, her brother. But when she was brought them near to him, he took hold of her and said to her, come lie with me, sister. She answered him, no, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do this outrageous thing. As for me, where could I carry my shame? And as for you, you would be as one of the outrageous fools in Israel. Now therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. But he would not listen to her. And being stronger than she, he violated her and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her. Then the same Amnon that at the beginning loved her, hated her with very great hatred, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, get up, go. But she said to him, no, my brother, for this wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you did to me. But he would not listen to her. He called the young man who served him and said, put this woman put this woman out of my presence, and bolt the door after her. Now she was wearing a long robe with sleeves, for thus were the virgin daughters of the king dressed. So his servant put her out. And bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and tore the long robe that she wore, and she laid her hand on her head, and went away, crying aloud as she went. 2 Samuel 13, verse 1 to 19. This is one of the most heartbreaking and terrifying stories in the Bible. Tamar's half brother Amnon feels so strongly about her. He's so sure that he loves her that he feels sick. He claims to love her and initially thought he would do her no harm. How often is harm preceded by, I love you, I would never hurt you? You're getting to know someone, and I even watched this show this week. This guy said, I would never do something, and he went around and did it to someone that he claimed to have strong feelings for. How often is harm preceded by, I would never hurt you? Amnon gets advice from his friend. He's so sure that he's in love that he looks sick to the point that it's noticeable by those around him. And his cousin, his friend, asks what's wrong, and that cousin gives him the worst advice in the world. His friend advises him to rape his half sister. I just want to briefly say, be careful of the friends you allow to influence you, especially with your dating life, especially with how you handle relationships with others, how you handle children of God. This silly friend tells him to orchestrate a plan to rape his daughter. And guess what? He does it. He does it. At the end of raping her, he's done with her, and something flips in the same mind that made him think that he loved her so much. That same mind made him think that he hated her so much, and he threw her out. The man that went to his father, orchestrated to be sick, to have this young lady that had nothing, was going about her own business on her merry way. This man went out of his way to rape his sister and had the height of effrontery, the height of audacity, insurmountable height of effrontery to throw his sister out and be angry at her. What craziness! Like, that's so bizarre. After loving his sister so much and after thinking that he would do her no harm, he does that very thing. He's driven by his feelings. He's driven by his feelings, and when you compound that with bad advice, it's a recipe for disaster. He hurts one of God's children in unimaginable ways. In unimaginable ways. And this is why I ensured that we had that devotional on feelings, because I know that it's often trivialized and we exalt feelings too much in this society, and we want people to feel, oh, if you feel like they're this, then you are this. If you feel like this is true, then it has to be true. No. Feelings need to have sounding boards to be expressed through. It's okay. The truth is, we could take someone else with the very same feelings that Amnon had for his sister and end up with a totally different story. We could have someone who realized that they found a woman very beautiful, they've been admiring her, they see how she carries herself, and they want to be with her. And it could have been approached in the right way. It could have been happily married, because they were into that half-sister stuff anyway back in those days. Abraham married his half-sister. So it's fine. It's fine. It wasn't impossible. It just was not the preference of the Israelites at the time, but it wasn't out of Amnon's control to try to do that. Also, I can submit, if he loved her as much as he did, given the laws of the land, love has self-control. He could have restrained himself, left the country for a bit, and circled back and maybe tried to pursue other avenues. But no. He was led by his feelings. He felt like he loved her, and so he needed to act exactly how strongly he felt, and that led to him raping his sister. Now, if we look back in hindsight at that devotional, do feelings seem so trivial after all? It is diabolical to express whatever feelings you have in manners like this. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says, the children of God are to cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. This morning, this is what I want to do with the idea of love. What is the knowledge of God that we have of love? 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4 to 8 says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on it does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. Hello? It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. But love never ends. And this is what I want to do to this. I don't know what this world. It really desensitizes us to the reality of what love should be when we see what the media is pushing to us. But this is what we want to subject love under. What it truly is. Patient and kind. It's diabolical for you to cheat on someone you're in a relationship with. I don't know what's going on with these movies. I'm so serious. Every other movie, every other show, someone is cheating on someone, and they play it up in such a glamorous way that it seems inevitable, it seems unstoppable, and it even seems like the right thing. You're like, oh my gosh, he doesn't really feel this way about his wife, or he doesn't treat her as well as her husband does. Of course she's going to cheat. And we have to get rid of these mindsets. It can look like passion, it can feel like passion, but it is not love. It's evil and it's wrong. It's diabolical to take advantage of someone who is under the age of consent. No matter how irresistible the urge is, go seek help. Seek help from God and seek professional help. This is wickedness. It's not right. And we start to see that coming in the media. There's a weird case of a sitting president. If you know, you know. These things are not right. It is diabolical to force yourself on someone physically, sexually, without their consent. It is not love. You don't feel a passion deep down that you can't help. You're greedy. It's not irresistible. You need to have self-control. It is wicked. It's diabolical to raise your hand and physically abuse someone, whether or not you have a physical advantage over them or they don't have one, but they still find a way to beat you. It's not right. It's not right to verbally abuse. It's not right to financially abuse or emotionally abuse someone. And if you're the recipient of any of these forms of abuse, if you think for a second that the person is doing this because they love you and they want to keep you in check, and if they didn't care, they wouldn't fuss and they wouldn't throw things in the house and they wouldn't break. Please, it's not love. It's greed. It's manipulation and it's controlling. It's a controlling mechanism. It's diabolical to treat a child of God in a way that either serves you or they don't exist to you. You're just greedy. You're selfish, and these things need to end. It has to end. It's diabolical to date people, to marry people because they're subservient to you and you don't get to be opposed. It's not love. God's children should not be reduced to being the object of our selfish desires, self-centered greed masked by whatever this Western society wants to call love. If you love them so much, and what you're doing to them seems so lovingly, have them, let's flip the script, have them do that to you, or do those things to yourself, and see how you would feel. Do you feel loved? I did say today's devotional was going to be heavy, and that story was pretty horrific, but I want to drive the point home that we, circling back, we should not be driven by feelings. We need truth to process things by and to act accordingly. And my prompt for today is to read 1 Corinthians 13:4-8 of what love should be like, and let your homes, let your lives, let your relationships be saturated with true love and not lust. My song prompt for today is Love in Any Language by Sandy Patty. Thank you so much for joining in today, and I know that was heavy. Remember, as always, to put first things first. See you tomorrow on a lighter note.